Hello and welcome to another Godin classic. And this time, my friends, we'll be talking about the power of leadership and others. And as we go on, we'll dig deeper more and more. So no caboose on this time. The dog's not around, but I certainly am. So I'll just start with my 2 cents. And so what is leadership? Now, leadership is more important today than ever. That we live in a constantly changing world, and that there's unpredictable, uncertain events that come in our lives that throw us off, that can cause us to worry, have anxiety, and to be a leader is to be calm under pressure, to have that flexibility, that peace of mind, that and that positive attitude that everything's going to be okay. That a leader uses their creativity to overcome obstacles, and a leader doesn't see negative events as setbacks; they see them as obstacles to overcome. So a leader inspires others to change, to be their best selves possible. So an authoritative leadership style where they would tell you what to do this without telling you any meaning. You could have manipulative style leadership, but a real change leader is one that inspires others to be their very best. And so be that leader. I'm urging you to be that leader, to inspire others to be their very best, because we need leadership now more than ever. We live in down times, many ways. We have the pandemic. There's still tons of stress about the elections and such forth. So it's more important than ever to be calm under pressure, to inspire others, to lead people to be themselves. And to do that, we have to lead ourselves. We have to be our own best leaders. We have to be the one leading ourselves to do things. If we don't feel like doing things, but we know we should, we lead ourselves. We be our own best leader. So it starts with leadership, with yourself. And then it also starts with leadership in the household. So if you've ever wondered how to be a better leader in the household, because the more you do around the house, the more you contribute to your household, the more you lead your family members or whoever you may live with. Even if you're alone, that's a separate story. We'll get to that later. But the point is that wherever you may be, wherever your living conditions may be, to lead yourself, to be that leader. And if you live with other people, to empower them, to inspire them to be their very best. And that's what I mean. Leadership begins in the household. That if we can be a leader in our own home, in our own family, then we can lead ourselves and others. And it's about leading for others. It's not about leading for ourselves. It's not about being the best leader for power, for status, for anything like that, for envy, anything like that. It's leading for the people. And we have the people's interests in mind and being selfless. A leader is selfless. A selfless leader is a successful leader because a leader knows the value of their followers, that it's not about the leader. The leader knows it's about their followers. And so when we're around these uncertainties and things are impossible to know that throw us off, it brings us to a concept called tolerance to ambiguity. And what tolerance to ambiguity is that there's so much ambiguous or unknowable or translucent events that go on that really there's not a solid definitive answer to. There's no way of knowing. So by it's called a tolerance to ambiguity. Excuse me. And what it is that we all have our own. Some people call it risk tolerance. I mean, if you're investing in the stock market, they call it risk tolerance. I mean, what is your tolerance for risk? So, tolerance to ambiguity is how you tolerate those small things in life that they're unknowable, but they're consequential, and that how do we deal with that? How do we stay calm under pressure when there's so much that can throw us off and there's so much not to be calm for? So the secret to that is the answer to that is be flexibility. That we have to stay flexible in the state of constant change. That life is always changing, things are always changing, and to be that change leader, to inspire that change. So what does a leader do? A leader facilitates change. A leader makes decisions that leads to change. A leader leads themselves, they lead their family, they live by example, and a leader has integrity. That a leader does want to be transparent and honest and authentic, and a leader wants to lead by example, a real leader of integrity, of a good, virtuous life, of a healthy life, someone who makes good habits, someone who's a genuinely good person. That makes for the best leader. A leader is someone who is able to use communication skills. So we must all use our communication skills and make sure we're on the same page at a really deep level, at a true level, to be on the same page. Communication. Everything begins with communication. Everything in an organization or anywhere. But it always has to do with communication. That communication is paramount to everything we do in any organization or any household, any friendship. Communication is key. So we have to make sure we're communicating at the same level and that we're using our communication skills, we're bettering our communication skills actively to try and connect with people and try. Language is a beautiful thing. It's a symbolic codes that we have a symbolic language that one word picture we associate with one concept, which we associate with a word, and that's how we create meaning. So life is absurd. How we create meaning, the meaning of things is absurd, and life is absurd in general. So to be a leader is to inspire others, is to have that tolerance for ambiguity that no matter what's going on, that I'm going to choose to be calm and cool under pressure. I'm going to choose to have that optimistic attitude because that's what's within my control. And so a true leader focuses on what they can control. So there's so many things that I have no way of knowing, that we have no way of knowing, that are consequential, that have major ramifications to our everyday lives that are unknowable. But to have that, to develop that tolerance to ambiguity or being comfortable with uncertainty, and that begins with surrendering and faith. And if you don't believe in God, it's your higher power to surrender your fears, anxieties, and worries and griefs to a higher power of your understanding and to surrender. And to have that faith, to choose that attitude of faith that everything will be worked out. And by choosing that attitude of faith in a quantum way, we will more likely manifest that reality if we learn to expect the best. The power of expectation, and we're constantly expecting the worst, one thing after another. Seems one thing after another is going wrong. We're learning to expect that worst. The worst. We're hardwiring that into our brain that we are constantly having that expectation that something bad is going to happen. That we have to have that attitude and choose that attitude of optimism that, you know what, I'm going to expect the best. That because there's no way of knowing this, I'm just going to expect the best because it's the only option I have. Because what's the other option? Expecting the worst, having or fearing the worst, even worse. So we can't fear change. We have to look change right in the eye. We have to look at ourselves in the mirror. We have to look at ourselves, and we all have our unique style of leadership. There's no one truly effective level of leadership. There's change leadership, but we all have our own styles, and that'll all be unique. So to find your own leadership style, that starts with yourself, with questioning your reality, with questioning who you are, with active contemplation, with meditation, with asking simple questions like, who am I? What's my life purpose? What's the meaning of life? Asking deep questions. If there's something in your mind, practice mindfulness. It's a form of medical cognition or thinking about our thinking, where if we get stuck in our thoughts, and I was talking about surrender and faith, then to just simply observe them and be mindful of them. And from a third party perspective, so we're not identifying with these feelings, we're simply observing them. And from that vantage point, we can ask questions like why. For example, I can think to myself, it really bums me out when I get rejected by a new friend I meet. And instead of just thinking that in my head, observing that, observe me thinking that, right? So like I'm like observing Adam Godin saying that. So I'm Adam Godin, the best. Yeah. So anyway, the that we're observing our thoughts. So that way, when we're from that vantage point, we can ask the questions like why. So why does it bother me if someone rejects me? Why? And then you have the answer to that, and you ask why. Well, because it kind of makes you feel unimportant. Like maybe it hurts my self-esteem. Why? Well, maybe I don't like my self-esteem. Why? And then you ask why enough times, and you're from that mindfulness state. And I'm not really the best. Okay, I just want to say at least once. I mean, I have I'm not egoless. I'm not egoless, but I mean, isn't it just fun for everyone to just say I'm the best? So I'm the best. No, I'm not. I'm not really the best though. I'm maybe I'm second place at best. But I'm still got it going on when it comes to healing and philosophizing. So anyway, so when we get stuck in our thoughts, that we identify with them. So to be mindful of them, to ask those questions about ourselves and self-discovery, to discover about ourselves, to find ourselves, to find our inner person. And that starts with that you can use astrology. Astrology is the best tool you can use for self-discovery. And if anyone wants an astrology report or an astrology compatibility chart or astrology trans report, I'd be more than likely to or more than glad to offer that. And I have one of the services I offer. So using astrology and using our natal and using our progressed chart really adds a lot of context of what's going on, who we are as a fundamental level, and there's a certain unchanging part of ourselves, and that we never really change at birth; we simply evolve. But there's this unchanging self that was forever there. Our natal, the first breath we take, is our soul. It is our natal. So we have a way of looking at ourselves with astrology with meditation, with self contemplation, with mindfulness. Like I was saying before, asking why, and simply just asking questions of yourself. And this may help, and it might be a little weird if you live with people because some people they shouldn't judge them. If you talk out loud, this is actually very helpful for me, and it's very therapeutic. Instead of being lost in your thoughts, just think out loud because a lot of times what happens is that we have all these unexpressed thoughts, these unexpressed emotions. We express emotions with our words. When we speak, we're expressing. It's encoded with emotion. We're expressing emotion with everything we say. And so when we're having all this unexpressed emotion, we're just keeping to ourselves. Then maybe it would be helpful to talk to yourself out loud. Maybe it would be helpful to get that energy out of you or do something constructive. But a leader knows their own style. A leader knows themselves, and that's the point. So we have to lead ourselves. We have to inspire each other, and we have to constantly be using our creativity to overcome obstacles. That there are so many obstacles that are in our way to just see them as opportunities as growth, and that to be the very best we can be. And what does a leader do? A leader every day tries to self improve and be the best he can, knowing maybe some days he may not have got it, but together it's completely so. And maybe some days they sleep in a little bit. It's 11 o'clock. I don't want to wake up, but I'm usually up at like 9 and on the desktop and the personal computer around like 9:17. But after my cereal, but it's just we self discovery and finding our leadership style is so huge. And you may benefit from finding your personality style. That there's a Myers Briggs test, a personality test, and there's multiple personality tests online. I happen to be an ENTP, and I'm very proud because only 3% of the population share that fact. So it's very interesting, but just understanding your style. And I would highly recommend Myers Briggs to understand your strengths and your weaknesses and what kind of leader you'd be because every change leader is a good leader. Every authentic leader is a good leader. But we all have our styles. Now ask yourself, what is your style? Who are you as a leader? I'll see you next time. Adam Godin.